Welcome back. Now, Homemaker Learnings from Gogo's Bosom is a book by Jabulile Buthelezi-Kalonji. The book pays tribute to a social system in which positions dominance and authority primarily held by women. It also highlights a timeless cornerstone in African society that validates that to find one's heart, one must first locate their home. Now, to unpack the book for us, or to page through it, is the author, is Jabulile Buthelezi-Kalonji. She's here in studio with us. Good morning. Welcome to Morning Live.
Good morning. Thank you very much for having me.
Give me a brief synopsis of what the book is about.
So essentially what I've done with the book was to really just remind everybody about the all-encompassing and all-empowering power of matriarchy and the actual influence of matriarchy in African societies in particular, because it's also not something new. Actually, this is what we come from. Women have been boss from the beginning of time. But of course, with all the different nuances and just the social conditioning, and I mean a bit of Christianity here and there, just a whole lot of other things. Some things have kind of fell off, you know, on the lines, on the periphery. And I just really wanted to reposition the book as us remembering what is the bedrock of our society. It's women. We come from women. And of course, looking at all the other various elements into different spheres on how this power manifests itself in our society today.
I want to talk about the women in your life. Tell us a little bit about the women in your life and how they molded you.
Yeah, I mean, I actually love that question because, and I also mentioned this in the book, I do not come from a family of like educated women with like PhDs and so forth. But man, they were strong. And I mean, they were very resilient, very smart, headstrong, clear-headed, and particularly my grandmother, this is why the book is about the foundation of her influence on me. But that's again what I wanted to highlight about how we continuously uphold women in business, women in mining, women in engineering, and so forth, which is absolutely awesome because, I mean, some of these sectors are difficult to get through. But we always forget the homemaker. Woman, the homemaker. Woman at home, the person who instead makes sure that, in my view, I think it's probably the most greatest profession above any other, because that is the most simplistic yet difficult, because it's all encompassing.
And there's a warmth about them. Hey, there was just something, and I remember in my grandmother's house, there's just something in there. I don't know if it's their spirit, if it's their aura, but there's just something in there and their strength. And not once would you ever experience that they were going through a lot. They would hide it so well. Why do you think that is? That, you know, their strength would, you know, come through so much?
I mean, these are some of the things I suppose we have to also, as black families, have to heal and unlearn and talk about and go through counseling for, because we come from families that weren't really open to talk about what is painful, what is wrong. So even if the man was doing whatever, you find a way to, you know, that sort of thing. And this has conditioned women, of course, back then to really just take a whole lot of things they do not need to take, because you've got to build the home and you've got to, you know, persevere and resilience. And again, I talk about the dichotomy of resilience. It's not a bad thing, but of course it can be used as a weapon if you have to be resilient because of abuse. So I think I've always admired that essence of how they've been naturally very firm, because they are belief strong, headstrong, and they understand the importance of building family structures, because they understand a family structure in an aerial view in society, in the socio-economic platform and landscape as well. It's not just what you're doing in your house. You're bringing doctors here, you're bringing authors and all these people out of here. This is the best school anybody can ever be in. So I suppose at some point you've got to be able to be as solid enough to just go through this pipeline. But I do talk about how we should unlearn some things and women should voice out. So they can be able to live their best lives and be happier even emotionally.
Let's talk about the decision to structure this book. How did that come about? Say, okay, I've got all this knowledge, I've got all this that I want to say, but how do I structure it? What is that conversation like with yourself?
So, I mean, I wanted to say a lot of stuff. Even now, I've had to cut down on quite a bit. Because I'm like, okay, nobody's going to read an encyclopedia.
It's a lot.
So how do we then you know, position it in a way that it is interesting? People can take something from it. Anybody, literally anybody, a man. I mean, this book is for everybody. It's not about women or a woman. And then I looked at myself and I looked at what leadership traits I love and aspire to or uphold as a woman leader, as a writer, as whatever in society today. And I thought, let's pin these leadership traits or character traits. I mean, writing as an observer, of course, myself, and then pin these down to the most funny stories, painful or whatever type of stories that I experienced being raised under this woman, because I was the first granddaughter. So I literally had the best of her years.
Yeah.
And I wanted to pin that to make it make sense to even a business leader who can pick up the book. So it makes sense to them and they can actually reflect on it. And at the end of each chapter, I even sort of encourage each reader to reflect.
Yeah.
So I kind of get you to do your own story right there in the end.
And what did it teach you about yourself?
I'm very much like her.
Yeah.
Especially because, you know, as you grow up, it's like, I'm so much like this woman who is so much like my mom. So this intergenerational thing is very serious, and it's a good thing because it's good traits. Thank God for that.
Yeah.
But also some flaws, because I mean, we're not perfect as black women. We're not perfect as families, as human beings. We're not perfect. We constantly have to learn to really become the best we can.
Yeah.
So it was an interesting mirror, but also an important base of healing and understanding and empowerment for myself.
I love that. Thank you so much for coming through. Jabulile Buthelezi-Kalonji is the founder of Township Press, a catalyst for development and storytelling across the Pan-African and diaspora landscape. She's our author this morning, and she was here, in fact, in talking about Heart of a Homemaker, learnings from Gogo's Bosom.